Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
All right, so I don't even know where to begin. I am so excited, and I'm here with Deete, and I'm going to spell that so everyone that just went, I'm going to name my child that. It's the greatest name ever. Deete, and you have a, what is it, apostrophe? It's got a real, an accent over one of the E's.
Yeah, so actually, my legal name is spelled D-E-E-T-T-E.
Ah.
And as I was kind of like branching out into YouTube, I was afraid people would Google me and find me. And I wasn't ready for them to see that I was doing psychic work. So I changed the branding to D-E with apostrophe over the E-T-E. And I also kind of felt like it was my mother's name. She passed it to me. And I was like, is this karmically tied in any way? I want to restart who I'm identifying with. And so that's why.
Wow, that's great. And such an interesting story. And so you all know, I met Tana Newberry and she gave me the UFO reading. And then I went online and I was looking for everything. And that is how I found you. And then I just absorbed all your videos. So everybody, so you know, the YouTube channel is Reincarnated Mormon, right?
So it was Reincarnated Mormon. That's actually what my podcast is going to be called. My YouTube, I just branded it as Deete, D-E-E-T-E, just so I could talk about, just so people that aren't Mormon don't feel like this is just a Mormon-based YouTube channel.
Right. And so where do we begin? Tell me about a little bit about your background and then how you got into your psychic self, shall we say? And also, everybody, there's a particular one I want you to watch because we are Paranormal Karen. Sometimes we go a little into the scary stuff, but you had this one video where you were channeling a reptilian and it made so much sense to me and why, like we were discussing, I'm kind of like light. I say I'm light to medium light worker, medium to dark, because I don't think it's all love and light. I think we do our best. But so tell me, so you started, Utah's your home.
Utah's my home. I was born in Salt Lake, but then my parents moved out, so I'm actually raised in Phoenix.
Oh.
So Utah culture, I wasn't raised with. So coming back, it did feel more suppressive than what I was raised with. But my family's background, like my father and stuff, he's very pioneer Utah. So I have a lot of that I've like had in my life. But I guess basically going through everything, I hit a really low point in my life, like where religion wasn't working. I was very spiritual, and so I didn't know what God was, and I wanted that to be the church, but it really wasn't working out. And I thought in my head that killing myself was the only solution to this problem, which I feel like maybe that's what a lot of people go through. Like, yeah. I don't know, I don't see a way out, so maybe I just should end this. When I thought that, things really started to shift for me, and I realized that my behaviors I took responsibility for my behaviors and my role in like my decisions, and I basically like stood up one night and was like, I need to change everything. Like, I need to heal myself and change everything. And I said it out loud, and when I made that intent, like out loud, I feel like it just allowed things to come in. Like, okay, you want change, like, let's take a look at these things. And then my grandma passed, and I started getting very clear visitations from her.
Wow.
And at the time, I was working at a substance abuse rehab center for women, and I started getting more spiritual promptings from their guides, their loved ones, on how to help them. And I just didn't resist it. I didn't want to be afraid of it. I even was working with someone at the time that was more clairvoyant and was like, yeah, we see spirits here all the time. And so I felt a little bit like I could embrace it. And so I guess that's where it started. I just practiced channeling my grandma or different spirit guides. But then I had a lot of weird visitations after that. But I woke up one morning feeling like I just needed to start a YouTube. Just do it. I didn't think about it. And I channeled Princess Diana.
Wow. And you know what? And just so people are listening, I love the fact that I don't love this, but sometimes when people ask for change, they think something negative is going to just mean, oh, well, it's just all got bad. But when you want change, you have to be ready for change.
Yeah.
No matter what that brings, you have to be ready for it.
And I think it was scary. Like, it was like, I felt like when I decided that, all these gates opened, that I was like, what is this? Like, I'm just going to go through because I can't go back to my old life. But that opened my channeling ability because I wasn't afraid. I wasn't blocking anything. And so maybe that's the first step, just saying, okay, I'm okay with embracing my abilities or whatever it is.
And I'm okay with who I am, because I think those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah. And we shut it down early on. Like, who am I? We get formed into different people early and then we don't know who we are. And
Exactly. So Princess Diana came through.
Princess Diana, I had this draw to address the royal family. I don't know why. And Princess Diana came through and it was like, there was no fear. I just knew I had to do it. And that's when things just really started going in that direction of just like researching royal families, bloodlines. Why do we have royal families? Why do we have the system that we have in place? And just doing a bunch of channeling work. And then I got into like the reptilian visitations. It seemed like they were behind certain things in some way. And
Right. It's not all good.
yeah, I mean, it's like, it just was a weird exploration time, I guess. And I just let in whatever wanted to come in to teach me, which was not all good. And they even have in like magical practices, they even kind of call upon demonic forces to help teach.
Really?
Like deities that...
See, now that's a whole interesting, and see, already I have about 700 questions from what you just said, which is, I find it, something else that we have overlooked is the DNA that we have. Like, it's very interesting. Who was on the week before you, or I don't know if it was 2 weeks before you, is Jessa Reed, and she is dating a Mormon, and she goes, there's something magical about Mormons. And I was like, I know, isn't there? But I also feel like, and this is really weird because I don't mean this in a Hitler didn't want to mix races. That's not what I mean. But when you look at somebody like Liam Neeson, who has the DNA of Irish people, he's probably not that much of a mix, and he's like a machine. Like, somehow my people from Europe or whatever, like, I'm healthy. There's two things going on there. And I think when you say you're looking at royal families, that DNA line has something to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up because a lot of times in my private channeling sessions, the guides will show me their DNA line, even like Native American. If they're like pure Native American,
something's up, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times I can't see their face because it's a phone thing and people want to keep it discreet. But I'm like, what's your ancestry? That's very significant to your path and why you want to do the things that you want to do. Like, what drives you? Which I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like, why do I... And my family's Irish and Greek. So there's a very magical side and there's a very philosophical side. So I like incorporating both. Like, it's so fun.
That is fun. And you know what, too? And then this is just the weird other side of it, so no one thinks I'm promoting Hitler's agenda. But I think mixed race people are also the most beautiful. Like,
cool.
I think there's something about... I know some comics do some jokes on that, so don't send me letters if anything is off, but I do think your ancestry has something to do with it. And especially this land with Native American ancestry. I dated a guy who was, he was actually kind of a jerk, but he was so connected to his ancestry, and I could not stop listening to it. And
he was Native American?
Yeah, and I really feel like he had a set of guides that literally walked up to me and put their hand in my face, like, you better be here for the right reason. And I don't even know that he knew that, but he was like 100% Native American, and I think there was something to that.
Yeah, they're very spiritual driven, even if they don't know.
Yeah. And so the DNA, and also give everybody an overview. I'd like to talk about the channeling because, I haven't had a channeler on yet. But you also do psychic work and, you do remote viewing, which is fascinating. I barely know how that works, but I listened to a book on it once and it kind of blew my mind. It was like, I thought it was like the military had taken a psychic idea and did what they do best, which is break it down into numbers and letters and and steps.
That's exactly what happened.
How did you learn remote viewing? Did it just come to you, or?
No, so I had been doing psychic work for probably at least a year at that point. And then I had a friend who was like, I'm checking out another friend's remote viewing class. And the person that was teaching that class had been doing it like his whole life. Like he was very, very good. And I was like, I need to take this opportunity. So I flew down and took the class too. And it actually is harder to learn to remote view when you're practicing psychic work, because I feel like it restricts you, because it's very like rule based, and it does have a very structure to it, which can give you very clear details, especially if you're solving like a missing persons case, or if you're finding a location of like a body or something that you need to find. It's very good with that, because I think psychically you kind of can tap into like the energies, but you're not sure how to hone that into like a very practical sense. Whereas remote viewing, you're like, okay, these coordinates feel like this is exactly where I need to go. It's a different.
Interesting. Because I'm glad that you said that, because I really didn't get, they had the best description of what psychic ability is. And the guy said, and I have to get his book and give him credit on this. He said, if you threw a stone in a lake and then you immediately froze that lake and took an inch of the ice, all the information would be in that inch of ice of how fast the rock was going, how it skipped. So you have to learn to read pieces of information like that. And I thought, that's the best description I ever heard.
I like that. Yeah. Because it's kind of like describing our conscious thoughts. Like everything we've thought about kind of holds a place, and you can just grab onto it and get information.
Yeah, we have that information. We just need to decode it. Hey everybody, you looking for a good book? I can't help you there. But if you're looking for 2 great books, go to Amazon.com and look up author Marty McGibbon. You all know how much I complain about hating to read. Well, I read both her books cover to cover and bought copies for everybody I know. Her first book, Never Give In to Fear, Laughing All the Way Up from Rock Bottom, is a 2013 National Indie Excellence Award winner. Well, she's won like 12 to 15 writing awards between both these books. This critically acclaimed, funny and dramatic memoir describes an emerging stand-up comic's drug-fueled descent into the underworld, escape from human traffickers, homelessness, and ultimate redemption. The part where she escapes from human traffickers is jaw-dropping and a story you have never heard before. This book will become a movie someday, so get it now in its original form. Her second book, Fierce, Funny, and Female, also won a bunch of awards, and it's described as one of the first women to work as a laborer in the Texas oil field. Marty McGibbon set off explosives, staked oil wells before realizing her childhood dream of becoming a successful stand-up comic. Marty introduces readers to a wide range of characters, from a sleazy authority figure to crazed Corn Belt cult leaders to Texas oil billionaires and wildcatters to wild-eyed redneck co-workers who rob banks on their lunch hour in the company truck. The book includes scenes with iconic comedians, Hollywood entertainment industry moguls, and a legendary bluesman, and offers insights into resilience, courage, and self-empowerment. These are 2 books you will love. Go to Amazon.com and look up author Marty McGibbon, MARTI MAC, capital GIBBON. I promise you will not be disappointed. Okay, so remote viewing and anything else I missed on your resume.
I after I started my psychic work, I did realize that there is some validity to magical practices. There's different rituals that you can do that heavily protect yourself, so that if you want to call upon certain entities for information, you don't get completely taken over. And then you go through a ritual to exit them out. I didn't know that. I didn't know how to do that. But learning, so I guess I needed a mentor, and I put that out there. I need someone to help me through this, and I ended up matching up to a magician.
Oh,
so
nice.
He's the one that told me, like, okay, magic is a weird thing, witchcraft, but there are some things that you can utilize to protect yourself if you are doing psychic work. And one of those things is like a protective circle and like a banishing ritual of the space to bring in like what you only want to talk to. And then after, all of it needs to leave. And so it's a very...
See, now you need to write a book. Already I'm like, I need to know what that is. And I'm like, I know it's more complicated than probably, but people know on this podcast, I'm really big on protection.
Okay.
And taking care of that. So that's a good word, because I feel like a lot of people that listen to this podcast are young people that are just getting into this or don't know or are overwhelmed by their abilities. So that's a good thing to know. So asking the universe for a mentor.
Yeah. And I also was studying a magical book, or whatever you want to call it, on Jewish mysticism. And one of the things that they talked about was channeling can be very dangerous, because not only can you, if you're not protecting yourself, can you let in certain things, but there are earthbound entities and spirits that like to give you information and be channeled, but they're not of like high frequency.
Right.
So you could be getting some really great information, but they can latch onto you and it can become very like parasitic and very dangerous. And so oftentimes, magical practices or just anything like that kind of gears you to not channel, because unless you're like channeling something very high frequency, and even then it's like it can be very general. So it's just a weird balancing act, like what is too specific and what am I getting in trouble with and that kind of stuff.
Interesting. And yeah, for people that think that maybe demons are knocking on us, we are outside in beautiful Utah where it's perfect, but they are working on the house next door. So if you hear banging or machines, it's not the devil. So you took the remote viewing class, and when did actual channeling start?
So that was probably when my grandma passed, which would have been a year before the remote viewing. And I had been doing clients slowly. I guess what happened with channeling is I would go to a public place and I'd come home and there would be a loved one from that place telling me messages. And then I started getting stuff from my hair lady. So I just, like, the more I opened to it, the more I got spiritual contact, giving me a message to their loved ones. And then I just practiced. Like, right. I feel like I want to tell you that, like, your grandma's watching over you or whatever it is. And then when I got more popular, I charged, and then it just built from there.
And do you differentiate between channeling and medium work?
Ooh, I feel like people do have like a distinctive definition, but I don't know.
Because I definitely feel like especially with the UFO stuff, which that sounds like such a harsh name. Should I say alien or, like with those, I feel like you're absolutely channeling. It's their words through you.
Yeah. So maybe mediumship, I want to say, could be like you're a medium for another entity's information. And channeling, I want to feel like, is almost bringing it to a higher level. Like you can channel information from anywhere, any dimension. Right. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, mediumship seems like earthbound or past earthbound spirits. You know what I mean? Like
that's kind of what
human. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Yeah. So you started doing that. Now, how do you identify? How did you get to UFOs? How do you aliens? Where does that come in?
That's a good question.
Because that's scary. Even the nice ones kind of look scary to me.
Yeah. So that I got visitations. I got visitations from. I'm trying to think of one that would be okay. So I was alone in the house. My kids had gone to school. I was cleaning, and all of a sudden I felt this mantis being and like this female-looking gray. But she looked almost like not scary gray, like just a very warm. It felt very warm, but the energy was so high frequency and it felt so much in my face, like in my thought process, or I guess third eye. I had to sit down on the couch. So I laid on the couch and they came over me and basically gave me this message. And so it was very clear. It was like if somebody had walked in the room, I don't even know if I would have acknowledged that they were walking in the room. So there was that, and just other stuff.
Like so she looked humanoid more than gray?
She did, yeah. So her face, I would say maybe like insectoid, like big black eyes. But almost like if you were to see like this black widow spider or something like a very like motherly, something you'd think of motherly, but also something that's very like, this is the way it needs to be. Like not super passive.
Wow.
It was very intense. It was very like, that's how it felt, like just very intense.
But you did not feel in danger.
I mean, not really, because I just was so into their space. Like, there was no fear. It was just communication.
Because it sounds terrifying. Like, usually I can go there and go, okay, I'm open to that. But when you said spider and motherly, I was like, that's not my mom.
I know. Well, I was trying to describe her look and the way she felt. But yeah, I think that the other dimension's frequency isn't human in their motherly ways.
So it doesn't bother us when we're there and they look different.
It doesn't bother us if...
Like if I was to see the same thing, it would be not frightening because I'd sort of be in their space. Is that what?
I think so. Because every visitation that I've had, I wasn't afraid. I didn't analyze it like a human would. It's almost like we met in the middle.
Oh, that makes it sense now.
Yeah, and the only thing that I'll say, though, which is kind of weird, during this interaction with this being, I said, like, you look beautiful. Like, you look amazing, because I had never seen anything look so, like, I don't even know how to describe how she looked. It was like this insect-type humanoid.
Wow.
But when I said that, she pulled back, like, why would you say that I'm beautiful? Like, it was such a human thing that she didn't understand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like, I don't know if they feel those similar emotions, and maybe that's why the motherly energy was different.
Or maybe, well, interesting, maybe that is something that connects to human emotions, which could be jealousy or, you know what I mean? Like, maybe they don't even work on that level.
Yeah, that's how I kind of interpret it, like...
So she wasn't offended, but she was like, what?
Yeah, she was kind of like, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? Kind of thing. Like, I think there was like a disconnect of like, that's very human, and I can't understand that.
Wow.
So.
Okay, so, and did she have a message for you, or she was just like, it's going to start?
So she said something, I don't know if I want to say, it basically was like, you are chosen to do this work.
Oh, great.
Because I think I was avoiding going into the deeps and darks, at least being public with it. Mm-hmm. But then she also said something that sounded like it was like an ancient Egyptian. It was like a very old, and she said it, and I guess subconsciously maybe I understood what she said, but I don't know what that meant.
Right. You know, there's something Jessa said, and she said, when I see people now, I can kind of see what tribe they're from. And I always talk about the Palladians. I had that joke where the lady was like, the Palladians are so gorgeous. You look like a Palladian. Like I could go,
I do?
Yeah, you do. You have that, you have this beautiful face, and it just the beautiful eyes, and like I could really see, I'm like, hey, maybe that's her tribe. But you would know better than I. Do you think you have a connection to a particular alien?
So I have had, I don't even know what it's called, like Abrahamic lineage of Melchizedek. I don't know if that's from Palladian.
Any of that.
Yeah, I've heard that from other psychic mediums, and I had some experiences that also validated that, but I don't know where that is. I don't know.
So a couple of people have told you where, and you haven't.
They're like, I feel a very strong a very strong impression to say you're of an Abrahamic lineage or whatever that is. Okay. But I've also learned too that like a lot of these new generations, just like in every generation, there's a mixture of tribes. And I don't know if they, on some level, another dimension, they get together and they're like, what new things can we create in a body?
Right.
I kind of feel like maybe even like reptilians and Orions or Pleiadians have gotten together and have said like, how can we integrate everything that you're good at and I'm good at and create like this perfect human experience? I kind of feel like that could happen. That's
what I thought. That's what and we'll get into the negative of what's what, but I feel like that is that's sort of what's going on They are more about, I guess the drilling is getting closer. So sorry, everyone, if you can hear that. They might not be able to hear that. The breeding with us is about finding to help them or help us. They're trying to help somebody's trying to help evolve here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I thought it was. Just a weird question. Where, for someone who's religious, does, I think people that believe in Jesus Christ or Buddha or whatever, I'm all for that. And I feel like this is the in-between that we haven't looked at. Does that make sense, or that doesn't fit? Because some people think if you believe in Jesus, you can't none of this. This isn't, we don't believe in any there's just us and Jesus. There's us and demons, and they don't go in between.
They don't go in between. Okay, that makes sense. So I don't know if you're familiar with like Hermetic laws, but one of those things is as above, so below.
Right. The magician again.
The magician, yes. So that is a very ancient concept. And so sometimes I maybe consider, was there something above that wanted to create something below its frequency? You know, like be the magician and create something very tangible with what it already learned.
Right. I got you, buddy. Courage is going to come sit with me for a minute. Okay.
Do you want to go inside?
It is kind of cold, isn't it? Yeah. Hey, everybody. About 2 months ago, I was at a crossroads and I couldn't make a decision, but I made the right decision to get a reading from Melissa Sanova. You all remember her from episode 29. I got tons of emails about how much you enjoyed her as a guest and her straightforward style, which I can't agree with more. She gave me the best reading, and even now, I'm still following the advice she gave me 2 months later because it was that good. She was spot on and to the point, and I don't know. She's just the best. She has been a professional tarot reader for over 30 years. She is the tarot reader that other tarot readers go to for a tarot reading. Try and say that 5 times fast. She also teaches tarot. She's been teaching for about 15 years. And when you go to her website, melissasanova.com, you have to watch her intro video because it's hysterical. She is not only a great teacher, but she is super fun. And she has a book called Kitchen Table Tarot that was the winner of the Independent Publisher Award for first book. It's also the first book I grab whenever I have a question. The other day, I was all thinking about the Hierophant, and I was like, nah, I'm kind of stuck on this card. And I grabbed her book. Sure enough, she cleared it up right away. A nice, easy read for beginning tarot students and for advanced. She also has a new book coming out in March called Tarot Elements I Cannot Wait to Get. So go to melissasanova.com, book yourself a reading, get a gift certificate for someone you think needs a reading, or what the heck, buy me a reading. I cannot wait to talk to her again. It's Melissa Sanova. That's Melissa, Melissa, 1 L, 2 S's, Sanova, Cynova, melissasanova.com. That name sounds like a superhero, doesn't it? Melissa Sanova, tarot superhero. Check her out. Okay, everyone, we moved inside where it's much warmer. So we were talking about Jesus and as above, so below. And I know this is probably not something they do. Like when you said the lady was beautiful, like I almost think this wouldn't be what they would do, but I wonder if there are levels. Like I know when people are thinking hauntings, they don't understand that it's probably not demon. It could be a fairy, or it could be a water element, whatever. It could be a million things, or something we don't even know. So I always wonder if that's the same thing. Like God is the top of the line, and then everything else is between.
I think so too, and it does bring me to the magician theory again, because in a lot of practices, they will call upon certain frequencies, like the fairies or the what do they call it? Elementals. Because there's a frequency. It's like you said, a level of what they're trying to bring into their physical experience. And then you have to move through that, or as far as like clear that out when you're done utilizing what they can offer. Otherwise it becomes toxic. Right. And I think that's the same with all those levels. Like Christ consciousness is about unconditional love for all things, right? I think that's what I would interpret it anyway. But like you were saying, that's not everything. Right. That's not, you utilize that for a specific time, and then you have to incorporate other levels.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's the And I think that's what's going on now. We're moving into the age of, we're moving out of Pisces into Aquarius, right? Mm-hmm. And all these kids now have all these understandings and powers that the rest of the world does not.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now, you were saying there's they introduced you to demons.
Yeah. So, I had, I don't remember the timeline as far as when this, and she could have been demonic. I mean, I don't know what frequency it was a very high frequency. It was very like what you would consider like insectoid, very feeling-ish. I don't know if she was giving me a message of some other plane that maybe was like, oh, that's dark. That's a darker plane, but it felt just like a different frequency. The other frequency and visitation that I got, which if I remember came after this, there was a winged, being. So in my room, I woke up to a winged being and I said, why are you like Batman? I remember thinking like, why is this Batman in my room? Cause it had like these like ears that poked up and just these big dark wings.
Wasn't like Mothman, was it? Red eyes?
I didn't see the eyes. And to be honest, I don't know what it could be Mothman, but I don't know. I'm a
Mothman freak, but okay. It's, or it's probably, but anyways, go ahead.
And maybe there could be many.
I think so. And there was only one sighting where they didn't have the red eyes, which leads me to believe maybe that's
it could be just maybe another different hybrid of it.
One was smoking a lot of pot while the other. So winged being in your bedroom.
So he was in my bedroom and I was like, why is, Batman in my room? The frequency was intense as well. It was very like, I ended up just turning over because I didn't want to address it. I didn't know how, I guess. And so I was just like, I'm just going to pretend it's not there. But about a week later, it came to me again when I was on the couch at night and, basically said some stuff. And I said, no, like, I'm not going to listen to you. Maybe subconsciously I knew that it was a messenger of like a darker realm. Mm-hmm. And I turned over to show that I was not going to address it. And it gave me a dream that basically showed me that I was awake in a world that needed help addressing certain issues.
Their world or ours?
Our world. Like, it kind of was a time when I wasn't understanding what I was doing. And he gave me this message of, this is happening because you are waking up to how horrific this world can be. And people need help moving through that. Like, you are a healer, or you're here to help people move through different pathways and stuff like that. The dream was actually really cool, but it was very scary also. And part of that dream was women were feeling lost, and I tried to talk to them and people were still very confused. And so it was kind of like me as a conduit of helping them through a confusing state. And after the dream, I got on like this portal and went to like it kind of felt like a little time machine.
Oh,
like
nice.
It was a weird thing. Like, after you're done with this, I'm going through a portal in another time.
We're going to give you a little treat.
Yeah. It was weird. So that was intense. But I'm grateful for the interaction because I think it was needed to address certain things.
Well, that is interesting. And I don't want any interactions with demons. And I'll just say that right out. I do a lot of investigations and I try to help people and I have no interest in that. But I also wonder, there was always that theory that God had put demons in place because you can't have light if you don't have dark. And, the choices that people make, when I do readings, I have a lot of clients that come back and I can see, I had a client that came back with a particular pattern. And I don't want to say she was wrong because she was right. She was being picked on and this and that. And then she came to me one day and I flipped the cards and I was like, oh, the pattern's changed. But her brain stayed with the same, I'm being victimized. Mm-hmm. And I had to go, wait a minute. Tell me how you think you're being victimized. And once she explained it, I was like, oh, see how you won? You won. And she was like, oh. So I think sometimes that is that inability to see that we do have some power over this.
Yeah. And they're kind of there to push you to that limit, to the point where you're like, I am not going to do this anymore. Just like me and religion. I was trying to make it work, because I always thought, well, how will my kids be raised without like spirituality? And that should be Mormonism, because I don't know what else there is. And it just like pushed me to the point of like, I need to kill myself, because it's like,
that's funny. That's plan B right away.
I know. I'm a Scorpio. I'm very intense.
Oh, yes.
Like it has to be intense. That's the way I am. So, it's kind of like that threshold that they'll push you to your threshold until you're like, I am done with that.
Yeah. And you attract it. That's so funny, because I'm getting ready to do my little paranormal web video on Scorpio. And that's why you guys are the intense and the real intuition. I'm a Leo, but I guess intuition's for anybody, but that's the sign for intuition and seeing that dark side. Yeah.
Yeah. They're really into like the subconscious and I think that's what part of this dream was that this demonic figure gave me, was like, your role is to get into the subconscious, what people are not addressing, and bring it into light, kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know I'm all feminist and Me Too, but I know we have to adjust that movement before we just are. We don't want to, this sounds terrible, nothing against the males, but we don't want to do what has happened before us. We want to change it for everybody's good. Yes. So it's going to need to be pulled back a little, but I think some of that is women finding their power like this.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about this the other day. There's a lot of new age and light workers that are feminine, that are very strong-willed, which I feel like they have to be, because that's the energy we're trying to match to. But there is a sense of controlling people to the point where they're taking on what we are trying to move away from. They're controlling people into the new age or into their way of thought and what should happen, instead of just letting people kind of move into their own creative path.
Yeah. And so tell me other visitations. I think I could listen all day.
Okay. So another visitation. There is a really fun one. This is a funner one.
Oh, good.
I don't really know much about it, but
I'm amazed you're not these just, even that intense one, were you sort of adjusted to this point now that this was going to happen? Or I wonder if these beings had been coming to you all your life and you weren't conscious of it.
Ooh,
which is why you weren't like, like when I immediately heard the alien thing about me, I said to the animal communicator, I go, ask Courage, because Courage knows everything. People know I'm crazy about my dog. I go, ask Courage if the alien's around, because it makes me nervous, because all I knew was the guy from Fire in the Sky, which was a horrifying story. And Courage keeps saying, they're there all the time. And I was like, what? What is they're all what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah. So maybe you didn't know these prior. There was a familiarity with these beings you weren't aware of.
I've never thought of that. That makes sense. And maybe like your barriers get blown out when you agree to it on some level. Like your higher self is like, she's not getting it, or she's not addressing what she needs to at this moment. Maybe she needs a little bit of a push where the conscious and subconscious get really blown.
Right. Because probably if your husband had woken up to a winged person in your bedroom, totally different reaction, right?
Yeah, I know. I told him about one of the visitations. It didn't go very well. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you anymore.
So now a fun one.
A fun one. Okay. So when my youngest was 3, he came down, couldn't sleep. And so I put him in the room next to mine and I said, I need to go run to the bathroom. And by this time, I had been piercing the veil. I had been starting to do channeling. I started getting visitations and seeing things. When I came back in, I could tell that there was a spiritual entity in the room. The way that I see it, usually in my conscious state, is just this like energy field of an outline.
Like ripples?
Yeah, like ripples. That's actually a really good way. And I came back in and laid with him and, just kind of looked at it. And he was looking at it and said, the man has buttons.
Buttons?
Buttons. Buttons. Like he could see what he was wearing and everything. And the man, I could see the energy kind of walking over by us, and he just followed it. And it made me realize, like, okay, I can see energies, and he's seeing the whole thing, like the whole person.
Wow.
There have been a couple times, especially if it's like new moon or full moon, where out of the corner of my eye, I can catch an entity and I could get what they're wearing and what they look like. But that's not as often as I get just like energy fields.
Right. And I try, although I'm not as good as this you. Like I said, I'm the I feel like I'm the connector. I purvey information that I'm always like, I don't know if this is true. It didn't really happen to me, but I thought in my mind. When I feel like I see someone out of the corner of my eye, I try to close my eyes immediately and get the picture.
Ooh, that's a good.
Yeah, I think so. But there's So sometimes I think when I work with people, I try to teach them that imagination is a place, it's not imaginary, it's a place. So everything is real. So if you're making up something in your head, you got it from somewhere. So sometimes things will get stuck. Like for some reason, somebody said, a medium came up to my apartment. There's always a medium or a psychic in my apartment, or somebody. It's probably with the aliens. And she goes, the guy outside your door with the hat and the coat. And it turns out the guy that once lived beneath me used to wear a hat and coat all the time. He got hit by a car. But so now whenever I hear something in my apartment, I have to release, okay, it's not always the guy in the hat and the coat. Sometimes it's the guy in the hat and the coat, but let come in whatever is supposed to come in.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I've done a couple like intuitive and psychic development classes. And that's one of the things that, like I say, is let your mind kind of move you through what it wants to see. And that's not always fake. It's not a fake world. It's really what's trying to show you. It's really cool.
Yeah, something came. Okay, so the fun, so the button, are your kids kind of in tune? I think the next generation is just in tune.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really hard time with my middle son because he doesn't handle authority. He's like, why? Why would I do that? And I'm like, because your teacher said, like I'm trying to like appease what was, but also bring in the new wave of kids that are like, why? Why would I honor that authority? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, you're right, but I don't know how to parent you. I don't know how to do this, and so.
I've never met your kids, but just so you know, that's my favorite one. Right there. That's authority. Wow. And is he, do you feel anything outside? Like, that sounds like a past life thing. Like he was authority before, or he's ready to change things.
Wow. I really like that perspective.
Yeah. Well, because he's already, I would figure he's somebody that's already overthrown or already been like, this isn't fair.
I like that. Yeah. He's an Aquarius.
Oh,
and he loves stones. So I think he's like, let's get this, let's do this. Yes. Let's make this Aquarius time happen.
Oh, and they always do things their own way, Aquarius. Yeah. Good for him. Yeah, you see how it all intersects. Okay.
I know. I'm trying to think of another visitation that would be really fun to share.
And do you have, is there anybody that comes back all the time? This one person comes back all the time?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I do see what I would say is like, it's not an angelic being, but it's dressed in this like white cloak thing that reminds me of something that like the Christ figure would wear, just like this plain white. He's got like white hair. And I feel like they are part of this ancient like order of, it's not a magician. It's like this ancient order. I don't know. It's like an order of trying to like bring organization to like the human field in the most like healthy way possible. It's this very distinct guide.
Feels like the adult in the room.
Yeah, like the elder, the hierophant of like, I'm just trying to like guide you into like what's going to be sustainable out of the most high good kind of thing.
Guiding without pushing.
Oh yeah, he's not pushy at all. Very.
I wonder if he's sort of a protective guide to you. Do you feel like you have guides or someone protecting you?
Yes.
I mean, I know we all do, but you should have, I feel like there's my mothering. I want you to make sure they're really there all the time.
In fact, I'll share this story. So I had done a lot of healing work and I was driving back and I had this feeling that I was potentially matching up to an accident. I don't know why. I don't know if something latched on and it was my guide saying like, okay, like something's disconnected here. And anyway, I ended up hydroplaning like really, really bad. But what was interesting about the hydroplane was I felt like I was in like this bubble because there were cars all around me when I was driving. Like nobody could see. It was raining super hard. There were cars everywhere. And then all of a sudden when I hydroplaned, like there was no one around. There was no cars. Huh. I went in like all these directions. There was no vehicles that I could have ran into. And I came out with no scratches, like I was fine. And my car was like mangled. And it just was I do think that something latched on to me negatively because of the healing that I had done. And I don't think I had cleared it the appropriate way because I was in a rush. And my guides did what they could to like protect that space.
That's probably the third story I've heard of something negative, like literally somebody's car going off the road for no reason or something like that. And we know they can manipulate. I'm sure they can manipulate way more than us, but mechanical things are easy to, a car would probably be an easy energetic thing for them to kick. Hey, what are you doing? Kick you off the road. That's fascinating. So your car was mangled, but you didn't hit anything?
I didn't hit any other car. I hit the guardrail.
Okay.
But I guess when I think back, I'm like, why didn't I hit any other cars? There were cars everywhere. Like, and I went all over the place.
I think there's a wormhole.
Like, did they go back in time and like remove all the cars?
There is a corner in front of my apartment building where I swear there is one accident a week, and it's 4 corners, and I've pulled out where I was like, where did that car come from? And I wonder if sometimes dimensions intertwine and somebody's driving and all of a sudden they're in traffic and it's like, whoa, what happened? Like maybe you went through a wormhole or something.
I
or
could
somebody
see that.
Put that
It was
bubble.
weird. It was a very weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder about vortexes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wonder about that too. Especially like when I don't know, sometimes do you ever feel like you're like driving somewhere and then like it didn't happen the way you remember, or like, I don't know, something feels like it shifted and you can't make sense of it?
Yeah. Well, you know what too? That also reinforces, I think that we have, like as for death, as for going to the other side, I think we have a couple of outs. We have a couple of times, and that just was not going to be your time. So whatever happened, it wasn't going to.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, you didn't. That wasn't one of your outs on that. Well, now let's talk about kind of to set this up for everybody. So there is, like I said, I think everybody's got a little bit of something in them. We're not purely human. There's a little alien DNA or something, or I don't know what a pure human would look like. I don't know. I
don't even know if we ever were pure human, but I don't even know.
Right. I look at certain people like I always say Christy Turlington or even Kim Kardashian. They have those eyes that I look like you could slap that on an alien real quick and it would fit right in.
Very big almond.
Yeah, shape? Pull up. Which some people pay a lot of money to do that. But so you were talking to someone named Walter. And you had done a reading for him where you either channeled a being, and then he said something like, I'd like to talk to that being again or something. Well, first question, he said he followed instructions in order to open up his alien contact. And he said it happened immediately. Do you know what that was? Because I would like to do that.
Yeah. So if I remember, he went to like a special retreat where somebody had been coaching everybody on like different procedures. I can ask him and have him send it over to you.
Yeah. Or I'd love to have him on the show. Either way.
Yeah. He's actually so he does a lot of work in Los Angeles. He does like film.
Oh, he's in my area. Great.
Yeah. And so I didn't know if you knew him because he knows like, I don't know if you heard of Carrie Cassidy.
That sounds familiar.
Like Project Camelot. So he knows, like, just a lot of the people also have different YouTubes and paranormal and stuff. So I didn't know, maybe you guys kind of...
Now we will.
Now you will. Yeah. So he had gone to a retreat, and I guess and I do think when you go with people that want to activate things together, it was so powerful for him. Like everybody got visuals and they all just felt connected with each other and their energy helped each other. And then the teacher kind of like helped guide that. And so I think they did different steps that helped really enhance that. I think it's harder to do alone.
Yeah, it's like having 1 battery or 10 batteries.
Yeah. So
wow. Okay, I'll have to find out about that. I know what I always. My friend always told me about her friend that got one of those big singing bowls and just sat for like an hour and was like, "I want to contact the aliens. I want to contact the aliens." And then, sure enough, in front of her car on the freeway, within a week, ship. You know?
Oh, really? A week?
Yeah.
Wow.
But that everything to me is sound, vibration, in those singing bowls, when I do Reiki, there's nothing like the singing bowl. The singing bowl is just, you can't, I know there's some videotapes or stuff that you can play, but the singing bowls, they shake you right through. They shake you right through. Just like when someone's car is next to me with that low boom, 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 it makes me crazy.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. It reminds me of Spider-Man. The one where he's got that black stuff attached.
Oh,
and the only thing that breaks it apart is the sound.
Oh,
it can't,
I gotta see Spider-Man now.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it's like the third or fourth one. It's the black venom.
Oh, okay.
But it brings me that. And I've actually seen black goo like in walls.
Really?
So I wonder if they got that from someone that has psychically seen some weird black goo attached to something.
I think it's all that. I think when I hear about people that I just heard about someone that had a real demonic experience, and it's just like on TV. It's the black mass, and it's 1,000 voices, blah, 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 so you were talking to Walter, and you said, I don't think this is the same person. And I thought, okay, is this somebody faking, or what is it? And you were speaking to a reptilian. And so for people that don't know, reptilian type of alien?
I mean, I guess I would say that. I hesitate with the word alien because it almost feels like I want to categorize them with just another dimensional entity. But I feel like they are not in their own thing. Like, I feel like a lot of them will work with all different types of entities.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know if that makes sense of why I don't know if I want to categorize. Like, I guess the way that came across is like they're in their own alien weirdness. And it's like, maybe, but they'll work with Orion. They'll work with Pleiades, like they're not in their own.
They're not against. It's like it's like human beings. There's a whole bunch of us. Okay. And this one that you were talking to was very about, I don't want to say confrontation, but about take it. He wanted what he wanted. We want to have this part of the earth. We want to have, and he said, I'll let you explain kind of some of what he told you or.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a while ago. So I'm trying to remember. Well, so basically, I can't remember who Walter wanted to bring in, but he had like kind of this visual contact experience, and we were trying to get into more of that, and the reptilians kept coming through. So I don't know if they used that open way to give their message, or if Walter had experienced something where they felt like, this is related. We've been trying to like build our kingdom here kind of thing. But I have realized too that there are these reptilian groups that are very like empire building.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a lot of humans that have this natural want to build an empire, build a dynasty, build something that's going to last forever, even when I'm gone. I wonder if some of that comes from that consciousness, because that's very much how this group can be. But at the same time, some have started to break out of like, okay, I don't want to build something material anymore to like this dynasty. I want to move my consciousness into other avenues. So it's hard to categorize them into like one space, but I feel like they're naturally very much like, it's like you think of like the old businessman that's like, I've created this empire and all there is this money that I've built. And they don't really care about like other people's feelings. Like if it doesn't help the building of the empire, then it needs to leave. Whereas maybe for some reptilians, they're understanding that the empire gets built by compassion as well.
That sounds like it was the conversation turned to, that's good news to me, because it was not scary, but it was kind of like the guy was saying, and I'll say guy, whatever, probably shouldn't limit, but he was saying, my children are still here and they want land. And he was like, but we don't want you to fold. We are looking for, good I don't know how he said it, challengers. We want you to challenge us as we challenge you.
Oh, okay.
So it was almost, and I think you used the analogy, or he used the analogy of football, whereas a team doesn't get better if they're slaughtering the other team. We want someone to step up and kind of challenge us as we challenge you. But then you kind of, or somebody said, so what is your final, desire? And he was like, well, we want all the land. And I was like, whoa, okay, all right.
Okay, I remember now. Yeah, I don't think they want it to be easy. It reminds me of, they've actually shown me this. It's like the Spartans. Like how they just like wanted, and the Romans, like they wanted to just build this empire and they'd slaughter. But I think they got to a point where they didn't want it to be easy. They liked fighting the barbaric land, and the expansion part was not necessarily building. It was maybe fighting things that you didn't think you could conquer, just to prove you could conquer it. Like just to prove to yourself.
Yes, and that's exactly what he sounded like. And he kept saying that his kids were here, which immediately makes me think of government.
Maybe. I should have asked what he meant by that, because I don't know if we did.
You probably did. I mean, this was really, everyone, you have to check out this particular video, because it was very long. I think it was like 90 minutes or something. Totally got my whole apartment clean while I was listening to it. Because I couldn't turn it off. And, but it was a little eerie, but not quite, but it totally broke that it's all good, it's all love and light kind of it's not. Somebody's looking for a game, if not a fight. And I thought, and it's, all governments, they seem to have that feeling, even when people go in for the right reason, nobody really comes out with the right, we help some people, but it gets kind of conquery,
Yeah. The conquering of like, my land is superior kind of thing. I don't know how it would I guess I consciously don't understand how it would fit into government, but I get what you're saying, how it's like very connected in the mindset of it. And maybe, I don't know for sure. Maybe there's a way where that consciousness dominates that without actually being here physically present. I don't know if there's like, do you know what I'm saying? Like maybe the government, that the people that want to dominate can channel in these energies of like domination and conquering.
Interesting.
I don't know if
that would make sense to me. Or I feel like that's their like they have reptilian DNA, like the big,
they're the lineage.
Yeah. When I go with my conspiracy friends, it's that the reptilians are really running the government, and everybody's kind of a puppet or part of the reptilian, which I don't know that this is a good label to put, but it would be somebody that I'm okay who I run over as long as I make money. I'm okay that I ruin your life as long as I, and I don't know that sounded like a reptilian trait, but he kept pulling it back a little, like, yeah, we're not going to run right over you. We're looking for the best competitor to fight us, to make us stronger. So it kind of had some mixed messages in there, but it definitely made me more aware. There is good and, I don't know if I'd say evil, but there is a balance of light and dark.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go turn off that fireplace for you. Is that okay?
No, I had a hot flash. It's over.
Are you sure?
You can say that on the air too. I'm always like, I had a hot flash. No, it's perfect.
I was feeling like you were getting too hot, so I didn't want you to feel uncomfortable.
I was, and then it went away. But you'll never win with hot flashes. I'll be in the car. It's like 100 degrees, 10 degrees, 100.
Okay, good. I'm like, I wonder if the fire's too much. Yeah, I mean, I just feel so. I'm glad I married my husband, because he gives me that perspective of like that business mindset. If it's not good for the business, you have no place here, kind of thing.
And that's a good thinking. But he's also not like, we need to kill the competition.
Yeah, he wants to see what the competition is doing, because that's what's going to show him that's the reflection of, am I where I need to be? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, who's doing it better? Who is going to give me the opposing push that I need to push through so that I'm better? I think that's the reptilian kind of like consciousness, is like, what is that competitiveness that I need to overcome so that I feel like I'm better, or whatever. I've evolved.
That is interesting because I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I said, I need to bring in people that will challenge me. And man, did they come in.
I was going to say, I bet they came right in.
And then I had to deal with ego. Like I had to go, okay, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We all have some. Maybe we have some of that reptilian thinking in all of us. And, wow. So when you did this healing, I'm going back to the car. Do you ever feel like now you're more aware of getting rid of stuff or not bringing it home? Any tips for some of the young people that might be listening that might be sort of subject to these things and don't even really know what to do?
Yeah, that's good. So one thing that's helped me is I take a lot more baths with salt and my crystals.
I do salt baths every night.
You do them every night?
Yes, every night that I can, except not on the road because I'm sure bathtubs in hotels are horrifying.
Don't you feel better though? Like you've just washed everybody's junk off and you're like auric filled, and like I do think salt, isn't that a cleanser as well?
Oh, it's huge. And you know what else? I get those exfoliating gloves. I read a really great book by Whitley Strieber called The Key, where some guy came into his hotel room, like he didn't even know who he was, and the guy gave him all this information. And one of the things the guy said is your psychic ability is an organ that's outside of your body, and you need to cleanse that just as much. And also, I think it's a thing in ancient or Eastern medicine is when you exfoliate, you scrub like a loofah, you don't get as many viruses because that ethereal aura pushes everything off of you.
Oh, interesting. I like that idea.
Yeah, and I do that every night that I can, and I can't believe this is so gross. But the ring around the tub of what I have scraped off, but sometimes it's 2 or 3 nights in a row, and I go, is that like, and people don't, and ayahuasca sometimes when people throw up or they go to the bathroom, I think it's literally the energy turning physical. Like we're going to get it out by making it a thing that you eject out of your body. Mm-hmm. And now I'm starting to wonder how much am I scrubbing off of other people's stuff? Or, this is maybe not actually physical skin. It's like yucky.
Yeah, I agree. Because isn't your skin an organ? It's the biggest organ, I think, in your body. So to clean that first, maybe that helps with not taking it into the other organs.
Right.
I don't know. So yeah, that's definitely helped. And I actually kind of go through the intent, like, because I feel like if you're just like quickly bathing off, like maybe it's just a little bit stronger to like say like everything I've taken on today needs to be gone. Like I'm not going to handle it tonight. I feel like spirit, for those that are empaths, spirit wants to connect at night because you're quiet. You're in a more vulnerable place where you kind of have to listen to them. And I feel like that's where my boundaries get pushed a little bit. Like I've had stuff knocked down on my shelves. I've had just stuff where I'm like, this is not okay. Like I'm sleeping, I have to rejuvenate my body. So the bath does help set that. I sleep with black tourmaline.
Do you, and just to go back one, so you have had where you've sort of felt like, because I think this is some of the people that are calling me now, where they're either, there's a young girl that somebody just talked to me about that she's seeing the dead, physically seeing them all the time, and they're coming to her. And her mother, who was very smart, said, why don't you just write it down, keep a log? And so the girl started to, but as soon as she started to write about the guy, he took that ghost, the spirit took that as, oh, she's ready to talk to me. And he kind of came at her like, let's da-da-da. And she was like, no, I'm just, logging it down. So you also have been like, hey, get out of the house, kind of, I'm all done. This isn't the right time.
Yeah. So at nighttime, I feel like that's the time when I can see them and hear them the most, but it's the time I don't want to channel them because I'm trying to, if I do that at night, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted the next day and I can't function. But I get really good information. So if I'm on, like if I want to maybe stay up all night and channel different information, that'll happen. But, it's not good for my emotional well-being in the long run. So right. I think the nighttime ritual of like having all spirit leave the room, the black tourmaline, I think blocks that avenue a little bit. I don't know how you feel when you have it, but I have like some big chunks that I sleep with. And I also have a salt lamp that I think also protects the space.
That's the big one that I just found. The salt lamp is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like having that. So I think that's helped me a lot. And then when I do get into a space where this is my channeling time, I do kind of the magical ritual of creating the circle out of salt. and banishing out anything that is not advisable for the channel to leave. It cannot enter into the space. Basically, any guides that are of the highest good that want to give the message can be in the space. And then I do like my little ritual thing. And then I close out and then I vacuum the circle.
Okay. Is it rude to ask you to tell us your ritual, or is that, if it's a personal, that's okay?
No, so I actually feel like I should share. So it's called the lesser banishing of the pentagram ritual. That's what the magician that mentored me kind of told me would be the best thing. It's been used to protect sacred space so you can invoke deities, loved ones, calling upon the dead. And then you can, and not get anything too
so
negative.
That everybody doesn't come in.
Yeah, so that nobody, and they latch onto you. It's just kind of a way to control that
Which
interaction.
Ouija board listeners, that's not what you're doing with the Ouija board. You're calling everyone. You're sending out all.
I never wanted to do the Ouija. I feel like that was kind of scary.
It's very low vibration, and it can, like, sometimes nothing can happen, but it's really just like, everybody over here, kind of, you know. So I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I had a weird visual with that, like having a megaphone and being like, "Oh, spirit, come to me."
Yeah, into
it's
Jessica's
not a good
room. Yeah.
Well, and to go just on a quick tangent, when I didn't put these parameters in place, I sat down to channel, and I had a real nasty. It felt like an old guy came up, and I felt someone standing by me, and I said, "Come closer so I can hear you in my channel." He got up real close in my face and he goes, "Is this close enough for you, honey?" Oh. And it was real nasty. And I was like, oh, like I kind of thought that he would be a kind, loved one that was going to give me a beautiful message of something. And it ended up not being that way. And so that's why I feel like these are really good ways to protect yourself.
Yeah. So you have salt.
So I do the salt. Let me think if there's anything else.
Do you literally do it on the floor in a circle?
Yeah.
Okay, so you literally need a vacuum to vacuum it up. So you stand in the circle. Do you make a pentagram or just stand in the circle?
So the lesser banishing of the pentagrams, you will do it in the air in your circle space, but there's different ways that you can do it.
People can Google that title and find it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different rituals with that. Let me think if there was anything with that ritual that, so part of the witchy side of things is, I either sit facing the east or the north, and I call in the guardians of the four corners, which are, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Uriel, and Gabriel. And I visualize them protecting the space from low negative energies, which I think does help with, calling in the four corners and stuff. One thing I've learned is it hasn't been beneficial to channel or do psychic work not in your ritual space. Like if I'm going out of town and I'm just at a hotel room and I'm like, I'm just going to do some channeling. It's a lot harder to banish what was there because I don't know what just came in. So I would say for those starting out, like pick one spot that is like your channeling spot. Because when I even did this healing before the car accident, I was doing some psychic work not in my space. And I picked up a lot, I think, from that home that I just opened the door a little bit too much, I think.
And that goes with where I sit and do my tarot in my house, which I do it outside, but the spot I sit down and I'm there. That meditation spot, I'm already in. There doesn't need to be a setup, and you can already. People sit in my spot and go, "Oh, what happened? This feels great. What's going on here?"
Good.
Yeah. So it's almost like building that layer and staking out your area.
And I think as people, you said the new impasse or whatever, as they practice what is going to come in, what's not going to come in, I think you can be able to, go in a convention and channel for a group of people and know how to kind of set the parameters. But until you get to that point, it's hard to know what it feels like when you let too much in.
Right.
And I think even though channelers, when they do conventions, they do probably their own process of like, only loved ones of the highest good can come into my space as I channel, like they probably go through their own little ritual with that.
Right.
Let me think if there's anything else to advise to newly empathic people.
Or empathic people who almost want nothing to do with this.
Oh,
You know
like
what I
they
mean?
don't
Like,
want to.
I get a lot of calls for that of people that want it all off, and I'm kind of like, nah.
Oh, that was me. I did not. People are like, well, I wasn't sure if you were legit. I'm like, I don't even want to channel loved ones. Like,
The one that the particular girl that I just heard from, I'm thinking we're going to have to take a turn here. I don't think she's going to shut that off, and I think if she does,
shut off.
Yeah, she's going to hurt herself, or she's going to, that she.
Yeah.
I actually think she at some point will be working with the police. That was the first thing I thought, is that this is going to be her career. She's going to have the story of how she tried to turn it off. And old lady Rontowski told her to keep it on.
Yeah, something on that based on what I've learned. You set your path, your frequency when you come into a body to help deliver messages. So if she has mediumship, it's not going to turn off very easily. And you could actually end up either killing yourself because you are opening, you're in a frequency of fear, not embracing what you've desired for yourself. So that fear will keep you in channeling lower frequencies or matching up to low frequency healings. And you're not able to bring in more light and acceptance because you're not accepting anything about yourself, which is super dangerous.
But if let's say somebody comes over and starts talking to her, is it the old from the Psychic Kids show where she's just supposed to go, I am closed for business, like back off?
Oh, okay.
Or should she do salt or...
like if she's in a public place?
Anywhere, yeah, that it gets, because I think she was talking about being in a class where they were, for some reason they were talking about a CSI thing, and the person that was murdered kind of, all of a sudden she was like, oh, I can feel what happened, and you know what I mean? Which is hard as a young girl. Like, I mean, I know I could teach her some grounding stuff to kind of get it off her, but I feel like with the new generation, the boundaries are so thin.
Yeah, that's true. So for me, that does happen. Like I went to a Starbucks and I got some people that had passed on trying to give messages. And I kind of was like, I'm in a coffee shop, just trying to enjoy my coffee. I don't want to go up and give people messages. So I think if she feels like that's not something she wants to do, it's okay to be like, I can't give those messages right now. But what I have found might help is if she feels prompted to go to somebody because spirit is prompting her and she doesn't actually want to give a channeled message, she can interact with them and they can feel like through that interaction. And even if you touch their arm, there's this electrical like wave of healing energy that like can be brought to them of comfort, even by not using words.
So it might be feeding their subconscious what they need to hear.
Yes.
Which also is more acceptable to some people.
I know, right? Like some people don't know how to take like, okay, you just spoke to my dad that just passed. Like I can't process this. And eventually I think they do, but there is an idea of maybe words aren't what you need to do. Maybe you can just, put your arm on them and say, oh, I'm sorry I bumped into you, or whatever you can to interact with them in some way. I feel like that has been just as effective.
Kamikaze messages, maybe not so good.
I know, like a passive, yeah. So,
hey, I don't want to ruin your day, but you're having so much fun. Your dead father came in and said, you know.
Well, and like even, I guess what I should have done at the coffee shop is I should have even just bought her coffee. You know, like just doing something where you give them a gift.
Or an energy exchange.
Yeah. So that's one thing I've learned. Another thing that might be helpful for that is to find other psychic friends. I joined a psychic group where we solve like mysteries. And it's so fun to just get it out. Like get everything I want to get out and have them be like, you know what, I felt the same thing.
Safe space.
Yeah, and they're feeling things too. So you're like, well, did you feel that? And they may say like, yeah, but I felt it differently. And it makes you excited to share what you're feeling.
And also if they focus on finding their guides.
Yeah.
And having a picture, I have found that guides don't mind. When the first time I remember my teacher talking to me about guides, I said, I feel like he looks like the emperor in the tarot. And she goes, oh, he loves that. So I was like, all right, we got a deal. I know, you know, so I think maybe that kind of thing too. But, yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you for all your help with this. This was fabulous.
I know. I really enjoy it. I wish I would have had someone that I could have found to mentor me. I feel like I just did a lot of trial and error. So
it's the book. You need to write a book. And everybody needs to okay. So give your website, your YouTube channel, wherever they can find you.
Okay, so my website is reincarnatedmormon.com, and that's also my email, reincarnatedmormon@gmail. I do private sessions, and my YouTube is Deete. I think you could probably look it up.
You know what though? Something does else comes up. There's actually, you know what it does? It keeps, autocorrect kept changing it to details or something like that. Because when I was trying to go back.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So everyone make sure, and I always just I would put in DETE, and I would put in, channeling or another word, and then it would come right up.
Then it would come up.
Yeah.
And then I will say, I am going to do my podcast, which helps bring in alternative spiritual practices outside of Orthodox. So just whatever that is, it's super fun. And then I am writing a book, but it's not what you were saying. It's more or less that religion has been created to lessen our divinity in the body. And it was originally intended, religion was a spiritual practice of our divine body. Like everything about religion is a very divine practice of the body, but it's been distorted to hate our bodies and our consciousness.
Right.
So.
Right. I have a theory we're all going to end up naked on the internet anyways.
Oh, I love that theory.
I say that over and over. I'm getting ready to sometimes I do my podcast alone, and I keep trying to do one on the dark web because that's a whole nother way to go. But it's like, but what a way to get rid of shame. Everybody, one at a time, somebody's naked on the internet. Everyone goes, woo! You know what? We're all going to end up naked. So just get over it.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And, well, fabulous. All right. And you let me know as soon, I'm going to let all my listeners know as soon as, whatever is out, you let me know. But thank you so much. It's so great meeting you.
It was so great. Thanks, Karen.